The following video is brought to you by somebody who lost their mom, dad, and little brother to them all taking their own lives, all within a 3 to 4 year time span. And in these videos, I break down lessons that I've learned processing and dealing with the trauma properly without the need of having to go to any therapist or take any heavy medication, and remain as productive as possible. Today's lesson is going to be all about choosing your hard. Now, you've probably seen the memes or the images online talking about getting rich is hard, being broke is hard, choose your hard. Getting fit is hard, being fat is hard, choose your hard. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to expand upon my own experiences with this exact situation and kind of make it make sense for those who are trying to get out of the dark place, or who are in a dark place, or feel like they're in a rut, or just feel like they aren't doing enough, or they're making the wrong decisions and they don't know what to do. So as far as choosing your hard goes, what I've come to realize over the years is that everything that is easy up front typically has hard things to deal with later on. Now, and a super easy example of this is, let's just take alcohol, right? Pretty much 90% of my family is and was alcoholics. And I watched how, sure, they liked crack and open a cold one. They liked going out and drinking. They liked doing, socializing while they were a little bit intoxicated. What this ultimately led to was this being super easy for them, made them feel good, but then they had to deal with the consequences later with things like DUIs, things like prison time, things like being on felony probation, things like with that felony probation not being able to get a job or a house. Life became incredibly difficult for them, all because they were choosing the easy thing up front. Now, everything from my experience, everything that is difficult up front or hard to do up front, or something that you don't want to do right now that you'll kind of procrastinate until later, most of, if not all of those things are typically conducive to a positive outcome later. Now, when I was in my deepest, most darkest depressive state that I've ever been in, when I had just broken my femur after wrecking my car in an accident that wasn't my fault, I lost a girl, I no longer had my mom or dad around to kind of help me with it. I was bedridden. From that, it was in my deepest, darkest depressive state. And while I was in that depressive state, the smallest things in the world were hard for me. Things like brushing my teeth, things like making my bed, things like washing my hair, washing my body, going outside, those things were hard for me. It was easy to just kind of lay on my bed, scroll social media, watch endless amounts of YouTube videos, and just kind of doom about life and just think, oh, what's the point? Oh, it's not worth it. But here's the thing that I realized once I started implementing these things. I reached a point to where I was wanting to take my own life. And while I was sitting there contemplating, telling myself to pull that trigger, what I realized is I'm in the darkest, deepest, I'm at mental rock bottom. I literally cannot go any lower unless I pull this trigger, right? But, before I did, a thought came to me. I don't know if it was from God or my subconscious or whatever you want to call it. A thought had come to me. I've experienced all that mental rock bottom has to offer. So what does the mental highs feel like? What does the mental high feel like when maintained consistently? I knew that drugs and alcohol and those things temporarily raise your mental state, but they don't keep it there forever. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to raise my baseline, and that had to start with things like brushing my teeth. I had to do that every day because that was hard for me. It was hard for me to stay on top of it. So what I started doing is I started doing things that no matter what else happens throughout the day, no matter what my other thoughts are, if I brushed my teeth that day, then today, that day was a W. That was my success for that day. And then what I started doing is, once these things became habits, these things that were hard to do up front became habits, I started adding more and more and more positive things. You see, with things that are easy up front but cause difficulty for your life later, those things are obvious with the habits because your brain gets addicted to them. Things like drugs, alcohol, scrolling social media, being lazy, whatever it is, right? The same thing applies in the inverse. Once you start doing it every single day, that hard thing, you realize that it also becomes a habit. And it's hard to build into a habit, but then it just becomes second nature, right? Things like, for people who are mentally healthy, things like taking a shower every single day is super, super easy for them. If you're in a dark, depressive place or state, that might be difficult for you. So what you have to do is you have to build that into a habit and into a routine, because it does get so much easier. It gets so much simpler to do. You don't even have to think about it. It no longer becomes hard. You actually want to do it. One of those things for me recently has been the gym. I used to not really like going to the gym. I used to kind of slack off in the gym and take my sweet time and lollygag and not push as hard as I really should have. But then once I started going consistently every single day of the week, maybe only taking one day off every 8 or 9 days, what I realized is I started looking forward to the gym. I started wanting to go to the gym. So something that's typically pretty hard for people to pull the trigger on became so habitized into my daily routine that it's something that I hate not doing. That comes from the hard up front. That's from choosing the difficult hard. You see, what people will do is they will accrue all sorts of these easy hards, I guess is the simplest way to call them. People will accrue massive amounts of these habits that, typically, if done in moderation, aren't necessarily a problem, but if done over extensive periods of time, creates massive amounts of difficulty later. It's like, this is why people on the internet talk about instant gratification. This happens in our society. We are so spoiled for choice. You can go up to the store and buy food. You have water running out of your sink tap, and while some people will be like, oh, well, that's not good for you, and the food at the store is bad for you. It's the sheer fact that it's convenient. Everything that you ever need is convenient, yet we are so incredibly unhappy. Now, you have to reframe your mind around the fact that you need to take advantage of these things that we take for granted every single day. Having air conditioning, having a bed to sleep on, having heat in the house, having a safe neighborhood to walk out into, having food in the refrigerator. These are all small things to be grateful for. And what you can do is you can understand those, be grateful for those things, and look at the opportunity that you're presented with, and then willingly take on new challenges. You see, these things, they used to be incredibly difficult for people, 200 or 300 years ago even to do, right? Getting food was difficult. Sometimes you had to grow it yourself. Getting water was difficult. It still is for some people in some countries, right? But they have to do it to survive. And if you're living in a first world country and you're listening to or watching this on your phone or your laptop or whatever it is, you are living a good life, because you have a piece of technology in front of you that most people don't have, most people will never have, and costs more than most people's yearly makings, right? So if you're listening to this right now, you have so much to be grateful for. And what you have to do is you have to realize, everything is so convenient for me. I need to now implement difficulty into my life, because if I don't, then I will slip into the depression. It's super easy to walk to the refrigerator and grab a drink or some food. It's super easy to, if you're feeling too cold or too hot, to change the temperature on your AC unit. So because our basic survival necessities are already fulfilled, we have to find new challenges to conquer for us to feel mentally healthy, right? This can be things like, I want to get into the military, or, I want to buy a new car, or, I want to get this job, or I want to get a raise at my work, or I want to start making a little bit of money online. Whatever it may be, you need to start finding new challenges to implement. You see, us humans, we are biologically wired to seek out problems, to find the problems and then find the solutions. This has happened for generations on generations on generations, and it's hardwired into our brain. We find the problems so that we can fix the problems, so that way we can be more comfortable later. But you see, because this doesn't apply to us today, because all of our necessities are fulfilled, we have to force it upon ourselves. And that is the hardest thing to accept and the hardest thing to realize, especially when you're in a depressive state, because you think to yourself, what's the point? There's no reason to doing any of it. I feel so terrible. Life is so bad that, even if I tried, I would fail, And that's what causes people to go towards the easy route. Drinking is super easy. I can feel good right now, even though my situation is terrible for me mentally, and I can feel better mentally. So over time, what you need to start adopting into your life is choosing the thing that's hard up front that has positive benefits later. Now, there's a lot of different things that I can list off. One of the easiest ones is people say, go to the gym. Now, you don't necessarily have to go out and get a gym membership and then, start counting your macros and eating a whole bunch of protein. What they're really saying is choose the hard thing up front, which is physical exercise, because it has positive benefits for you into the future. For me, what I've noticed is me going to the gym every day, not only do I feel more confident about myself, not only do I feel comfortable taking my shirt off, I feel stronger, I feel healthier, I feel more capable as a man. And one of the greatest things about it too, and I don't know if it's just me, but if I ever start to feel sick, if I just go to the gym, I no longer feel sick, or that sickness goes away a lot quicker. I don't get sick super heavily just so long as I'm going to the gym every day. And that's one of those positive benefits that comes from, oh great, I have to wake up a little bit extra early so I can squeeze in this workout. I have to, put on these shoes. I have to go to the gym. I have to push heavy weights and it's gonna hurt. You have to accept those hard things up front because the residuals are so much greater later. Now, this one might seem really surface level, really basic, but truthfully, I think it's incredibly fundamental to your success or somebody who is trying to get out of that rut's success. Because when I was in my rut, even the smallest things, like I said earlier, is brushing your teeth or just washing yourself, those small things, those things are difficult, and that's okay. You have to just stack up W's. And you see, by doing this, what you inevitably do is you start stacking up enough W. You start stacking up so many W's within your day that it's almost impossible for you to, it's almost impossible for you to feel bad. Now, what I've been realizing recently is I've been meaning to start this channel for a couple weeks now, but I completely forgot about the fact, because I had gotten everything else all taken care of, I completely forgot about the fact that I need to continue adding hard things onto my plate. I had nothing hard to accomplish. I had nothing scary to do. I had nothing that, was challenging for me to start accomplishing and start implementing into my life. But now that I'm recording this, and now that it's getting posted, and maybe somebody is listening to it and finding it valuable, I feel accomplished. I feel like I'm helping people. And this is one of those hard things that I've added onto my plate. Because after a while, once you start getting these hard things, accomplished, your immediate thought is, I've been doing really well. I've been brushing my teeth. I've been cleaning my room every day. I've been going to the gym. I've been eating right. You start to get comfortable. You start saying, okay, yeah, that's enough. But you see, going back to the whole biological wiring, because our needs, all of our basic needs are fulfilled, you need to continually add more and more difficult things, even if it's scary, even if it's extra hard. Because if you do not, and you are prone to being depressive, or you are prone to slumping into a dark rut or a dark place, you need to continually start increasing how difficult the things you do are. So that's today's lesson. Today's lesson is choosing the hard thing up front rather than later. Because if you choose the hard thing up front, it gets easier later. And if you choose the easy thing up front, it gets difficult later, if that makes sense. Now, the reason that I've started this channel and the reason that I'm putting it out there is because, like I said in the beginning of the video, my little brother ended up taking his life. And that was a couple years after my mom and dad had ended up taking their lives. So I'm making these videos to kind of help people who were in a similar spot that he was. Unfortunately, I couldn't do anything to help him or save him, but I figured that by releasing these types of videos, I can help or save some people who are currently in the same spot that he was, and help them get out of their depressive headspace, and help them, start doing things that they're proud of, and start accomplishing things. If you are in a super depressive spot right now and you are not feeling the best, what I have done is, in the first and only link inside of the description below, I've included a link to how I personally cured my depression. It's a one-size-fits-all thing. It doesn't matter if you're male or female. It doesn't matter if you're 14 or 15, or if you're 56 or 60, whatever it may be. This is the step-by-step formula that I've put together that has gotten me out of my depression, and that I always fall back on if I ever need to. So if that's something that you're interested in, click that link. But in the meantime, I will see you guys tomorrow for the next edition, or the next volume, or whatever you want to call it, of Traumas 2 Commas. So if you enjoyed the video, like the video, and I'll see you guys later.